Everything is Fine by Great 78. Chapter 16. Trains. There's someone else here who is masquerading as something they're not. We might as well get it all out in the open. The angry voice of Luna Lovegood echoed through the suddenly silent room. In the middle of the group, Ariel sucked in a deep breath and then let it out. Miss Lovegood, are you saying that you yourself are also pretending to be someone they aren't? Not me, you daft bit, him! One perfectly manicured red fingernail pointed accusatorially at Ron Weasley. This asshole told me I was his soulmate, and then he turned around and had sexual fantasies about Rosie, the helper. Oh, Jim, Luna! Weasley shouted, anguished. It was one time, all right? I said her name one time during sex, and suddenly, you may have only called for her one time, but you treat her like she's some kind of goddess, Luna cried, angrily. I think she may be a goddess, am I not wrong? Weasley looked around at the rest of the guests gathered in the room, but no one wished to make eye contact to confirm this with him. She knows everything. She anticipates every need so well. She's so beautiful and perfect. How can she not be a goddess? The microbrew and mooncake in Draco's stomach curdled at Weasley's words, and he exchanged an apprehensive look with Hermione. Weasley may not have called it love, but it was fairly obvious to everyone else. A beautiful and perfect goddess. These were not words used to describe an omnipotent helper being, but how one might describe a person they cared for, very deeply. Luna would not take well to that. They both already knew, if last night was any evidence. And unfortunately, this version of Luna Lovegood already knew too much about them. They had not spoken in front of her directly about the fact that Harlow Garamond was actually Hermione Granger, but they had mentioned that they had known Weasley in their previous lives, and had gone to school together. It would not take much for her to put this information together, then use it against Weasley, and by extension, the others. Behind the bar, Luna was losing her shit, screaming more obscenities whilst she lobbed more and more microbrews at them all. Enough! Called Ariel over the din. I've heard enough of this. I need everyone to report back to their homes immediately. I will be coming around this evening to test everyone. It will be very quick for most of you. I only need a few moments with each of you. However, I would prefer if the 6 of you stay together. She gestured to Hermione and Draco, Weasley, Luciana, and Ambrose, and then to Luna. All of you, please, go to Weasley Manor. I wish to speak to you as a group. Immediately, the room began to clear of party guests. Luciana looked angry, crossing her arms and speaking in rapid Spanish to Pansy/Ambrose. Don't start in with me. I know better now. Your English is just fine. Pansy seethed at the woman. Luciana harumphed, then called Antonio. A new, gorgeous man appeared, muscles rippling above his low-slung belted trousers. He proffered a tray holding an iced drink with a pineapple slice and a cherry toothpicked on one side. Luciana accepted the drink, then dismissed the man, who chimed away. I shall meet you at the correct address. Luciana bit out in perfect English at Ambrose. Ambrose pursed his lips and nodded. Luna came from around the bar, holding 2 of the microbrew bottles by the necks. I'll walk with her. She seems like a good listener. Ariel left without another word, or a backwards glance at the 5 that remained. Jean Wilder sadly began sweeping shards of broken beer bottles and mooncakes into a pile. The other 4 picked their way carefully through the mess for the door and left without speaking to each other. They passed along the pavement amongst the several other pairs of soulmates, huddled together as they walked, shooting occasionally distrustful glances their way. "Fork, what I would not give to be able to cast a muffliato these days." "What the fork exactly happened last night? Why did Luna say that you had had a threesome? What gives?" Weasley demanded, his hands shoved deeply into his trouser pockets, eyes cutting to Draco and Hermione. Hermione sighed and threaded her arm through Draco's bent one. "She showed up yesterday evening, upset. She told us that you were in love with Rosie." "Again, I'm not," Weasley denied, hotly. "You might be, Weasley, but that is neither here nor there right now. The bigger issue is, Ariel is suspicious. She knows something is wrong, and she thinks that it has to do with one or more of the 6 of us," Draco pointed out. "I don't think she suspects Luciana," Ambrose/Pansy spoke up miserably. "They seem rather close, good friends and all." Ambrose walked stoop-shouldered behind them, his older muscles and joints not moving as easily as their younger ones. "And now Luna seems to be aligning herself with Luciana," Hermione mused. "That doesn't bode well for us." They finally reached the house and entered to find the 2 women lounging on chaises in the 5th drawing room past the library, 2 kneeling, muscled helper beings giving them foot massages. Luna opened her eyes and cocked a brow at Ron, as though daring him to say something about it. Weasley looked thunderous, but mercifully stayed silent on the topic. Instead, he asked the room at large, "Anyone else fancy a drink? Rosie?" A chime, and the curvy woman appeared with a tray of lowball glasses, plus a decanter of the rich golden-brown liquid. Draco, Pansy, and Weasley each had one, and when everyone else turned theirs down, they each had a second. "Do you need anything else, sir?" Rosie asked in an affectionate voice. "Sweet Salazar, sir. That's how I know he's definitely Percy's brother," Pansy whispered under her breath to Draco. "Did the red hair and the desperate desire for wealth and acceptance not clue you in already?" Draco whispered back, snidely. Pansy smirked, an expression both familiar and startling on her old man features. Weasley shot them an ugly look. He was too far away to know what they were whispering about, but he had no doubt that it was about him. "No, Rosie, thank you." "Ah, Rosie, love, why don't you stay? Keep everyone company," Luna trilled from her spot on the chaise. "Very well, miss," Rosie returned, and if Draco wasn't mistaken, the tone was slightly frosty. Who knew omnipotent helper beings had favourites? Barely 10 seconds later there was an extended melody from a not-too-distant carillon. A second Rosie in a maid outfit, entirely too short to cover her entire bum, appeared at the door of the drawing-room. "Good Godric, they're multiplying," Hermione muttered to Draco. "Miss Ariel is at the door, sir." "Show her in, Rosie," Weasley said, his voice a bit strained. "I've been to visit everyone in the town, and everyone is as they should be," Ariel said, wringing her hands. "I'm afraid that the source of the problem we are having lies in this room amongst the 6 of you." All of them stared around at each other, uncertain of what was to come. Ariel continued, "What it comes down to is this. I did a weighing of the souls for this good place, and somehow Although we have exactly 100 people here, the weighing reveals 102 souls. As you may or may not be aware, a good place is only allowed to have a maximum of 100 souls, within a maximum of 100 people. There can be fewer, but there cannot be more. To have more puts everyone within that good place at risk. I'm afraid that means that one or more of you will need to leave. There was shocked silence all around. After a moment, Luciana stood. Adriel, you can weigh me individually if you must, but I assure you, as that I am one body and one soul, you know me well, you know this to be true. Ariel nodded her agreement. You're right, I do know you, Luciana. I feel certain that you are not the culprit. I'm not trying to accuse anyone, and I really don't need to know the exact details. But you must understand, we can only have 100 souls and 100 people here. And what is more, when I did the weighing of the souls, there were uncertainties about the suitability of some of the souls in question, meaning perhaps some of them did not belong in the good place, any good place at all. So, I regret to inform you that whoever departs needs to prepare themselves to go to the bad place. I won't sugarcoat this for you. It is not a nice place. I suppose that's obvious. It's right there in the name, after all. But it is not a place for the faint of heart. The room was entirely silent. Everyone's minds caught on her words. Ariel heaved a sigh and then continued. I will not do each of you the public indignity of an individual weighing. You know what's inside of you, and you know what must be done. 2 souls must leave here, however you can find them amongst yourselves. In 1 hour, a train will arrive from the bad place. They're coming to take whomever they must with them. Please, be prepared to depart. Ariel looked down, clearly disheartened by the entire situation. I am so sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I don't know how this mistake was made, and I feel partly responsible for it. Rest assured, I have already spoken to the powers that be, and they refuse to budge. She waited another moment, and when no one spoke, she turned on her heel and walked back out the door. Luciana looked quickly at the others in the room, then followed her friend out. This left the 5 of them staring at each other, gape-mouthed. What are we going to do? Hermione choked out. Well, I think it's obvious. I'll leave, Pansy said. Apparently, I'm not only Pansy, but also Ambrose. If I leave, that brings our number of souls down to 100. Problem solved. Hermione and Draco both shook their heads. I'm not letting you make that decision unilaterally for all of us, Pans, Draco said. But it was Hermione's words that clarified the difficulty. That won't solve the problem. Not entirely. Yes, it will bring us down to 100 souls, but the number of bodies will still be 99. Ariel will still know that someone here has 2 souls within them. Here, Hermione paused, swallowing hard. I think that I should also go. Yes, that would solve it, Luna enthused from her chaise. That would solve absolutely nothing, you dumb shit, Draco seethed, apoplectic with sudden rage. Why don't you sit over there and get your foot massage from that boy toy and shut the fork up? Rosie looked affronted at the insult to the silent, shirtless man rubbing Luna's feet. "There's no need for you to be so insulting towards me. I'm not—" But then Draco broke off, realizing that, indeed, he was insulting Rosie, Dobby, Ernesto, and every other omnipotent being representation with his comment. "Sorry." "It's all right, Draco Malfoy. Believe me, I understand where you're coming from. Because I understand everything, everywhere, all of it." Hermione paced a bit. "There's only one real solution. Pansy and I should be the ones to go." "Absolutely not, Granger. I forbid it," Draco said harshly. "You cannot forbid—" she began hotly. "Watch me." "I bloody well will not stand by and let you—"
"The answer is no, Granger, and I'm done discussing—"
Their argument continued until Pansy came to stand between them. "Not that I'm not getting turned on by this little lovers' quarrel, but we don't have much time for arguing."
"This is all just incredibly forked up," Weasley said, running both hands through his ginger hair in anguish. "Hermione, just let Malfoy go. You belong here, before all of us, myself included. It's ridiculous that you would be the one to go to the bad place before these two snakes."
Draco gritted his teeth and narrowed his eyes at the git, but said,
"Weasley is right. Let me go. You deserve nothing less than the good place in life and in death."
"Neither of you are listening," Hermione nearly screamed. "At any point in the future, if she does a weighing of the souls again, the numbers will not add up. She'll always know there's an issue, and she won't rest until she's got it figured out. She will search it out to the ends of the earth, the ends of the afterlife, until she solves it. Jim, I cannot believe this is happening."
"Wait,"
Weasley said then. Everyone, even the scornful Luna, turned to look at him. The ginger man stood there for several seconds, his face frozen in a look of deep thought. The brain pixies in Draco's mind pulled out an hourglass and turned it over to see how long this would take. Finally, Hermione could take it no more. "Ron, what is it?"
"She will follow us to the ends of the afterlife, and Rosie understands everything, everywhere," Weasley said. "Rosie, we know that there is a good place and a bad place. Is there anywhere else, like an in-between place?"
Rosie smiled fondly at Ron. "That's not the name it goes by, but yes, sir, there's the medium place." Draco and Hermione's eyes met, relief and hesitant joy flooding them both. Perhaps there was a solution, after all. If there was this in-between place that was neither good nor bad, a place where they could both exist as themselves. "Can you tell us about it, Rosie? How do we get there? What's it like?" Hermione asked kindly. "There is a train that runs from between the good place and the bad place. It runs directly through the middle of the medium place. It doesn't usually stop there, but if I'm driving, I can make it stop," Rosie offered helpfully.
"The train," Draco breathed. "That's our ticket out of here, Granger."
"But the people from the bad place will never stop and let us off," Hermione said in confusion. But Pansy/Ambrose was exchanging a knowing smirk with Draco. "Not to worry, Granger. We're not going to be asking permission." 20 minutes later, the 4 former Hogwarts students, plus Luna and Rosie, met inside the empty train station ticket office. They were hunched down so as not to be seen through the open windows. Each of them besides Rosie had packed a few changes of clothing, and Hermione had insisted upon bringing Jim, the snow leopard, along with her. The oversized cat curled against her chest, his bright red lead looped around one of her wrists, purring so loudly that Draco worried they would be discovered just from the vibrations.
Weasley had, of course, insisted upon coming along, if nothing else than to convince Hermione to come back with him, Draco was sure. Also, any chance he had to spend more time with Rosie was time well spent in Weasley's mind, it seemed. Luna had refused to allow Ron to go without her.
"If you think I'm letting you and your little maid trollop run off without me, you have another thing coming!"
Outside of the ticket office on the tracks, the ground began to vibrate, just as Draco spotted a stream of steam in the distance. Very shortly the approaching whistle sounded, and finally the steadily decelerating thrum of the steam engine could be heard. Pansy elbowed Draco in the ribs, pointing surreptitiously back towards the town. Ariel approached the train station from the little town square, thankfully not looking through the windows of the ticket office. She wore the lovely fuchsia suit that she'd chosen for the reception for Luciana's garden. Ariel made her way directly to the platform, standing tall next to her version of the helper, an attractive woman who stood in a plain white vest and white blouse, over a matching white skirt and sensible shoes. The train stopped in a billow of white steam, and the doors opened with a creak. From the doors emerged 3 people. One was dressed exactly like Ariel's helper, only entirely in red. Another was a tall, thin man who looked as though a stiff breeze might take him down. But the person who stood in front of both of them was the one that caused everyone except for Luna within the small ticket office to suck in a harsh breath. It was all there. The black bow, the tacky cardigan, the 2¼ inch sensible heels that clicked and clacked on the ground, self-importantly. The outfit wasn't pink, but an icy powder blue. The hair wasn't a helmet of dark brown, but rather one of honeyed blonde. And the face wasn't quite the same, though it was still toad-like. This wasn't Dolores Umbridge, but she could have been the woman's sister. And the set of her mouth indicated that she, like her earthly counterpart, would have order. "There is 0 forking chance I'm getting on the train to go anywhere with that woman," Draco muttered, and everyone in the ticket office silently agreed. Even Jim seemed to have his hackles up. Outside in the breezeway, Ariel was effusing over the Bad Place contingent, bowing and greeting them as though they were foreign dignitaries on a cultural exchange. The small group inside the ticket office could not hear much, but it was clear from the interaction who had the upper hand in the conversation. It was odd, seeing the normally commanding woman seem to kowtow and simper towards the new arrivals. After a moment, the entire group outside moved towards the town square. Draco just caught the words, "banana balls," as they passed the open-air windows of the ticket office. He shuddered a bit at the thought, briefly wondering if the food in the Bad Place involved any sort of banana concoction. "Okay, let's go," Pansy grumbled, clutching the arm of Draco to support herself as she straightened her elderly knees and back into a standing position. "Salazar's taint never get old. If I can offer any life advice to anyone else, it is simply don't get old." Draco smirked. "Well, considering you're speaking to an omniscient, presumably non-aging being, and 4 people who all died in their 20s, I think we're safe from that torture, at least." They hurried as a group out of the ticket office door, pausing at the corner to check that the coast was clear before they scampered to the train. Once on board, they all settled into the first seats, whilst Rosie moved to the engineer's cab. Weasley followed close behind. "What?" he asked sharply, at Hermione's knowing smirk. "I've always been interested in how these things work." "Whatever," said Luna, flopping onto the seat next to Pansy. "So, Amherst, tell me more about your life on Earth. Were you rich?" Pansy struggled to her feet once more, moving to the far end of the compartment to sit alone. Luna huffed loudly, but did not follow. A few seats away, Draco and Hermione sat together. They held hands nervously, her smaller fingers occasionally tightening and twisting anxiously around his larger, soothing ones. Very slowly, the train began to move back in the direction from which it came. They all watched in wonder out of the windows as the tiny town slid away. As they rode, the details of their surroundings began to blur, as one might have expected, as they had gained speed. However, Draco was surprised to realize after a few moments that it wasn't the speed that caused them to blur. It was the objects themselves. It looked as though every tree, bush, and tuft of grass was part of a painting, as though they were not real. In a matter of a few minutes, however, the train began to slow down. Draco stood. "Why are we stopping?" he wondered aloud in alarm. "Is something wrong?" He and Hermione hurried to the engineer's compartment at the front of the train. They opened the door to find Weasley and Rosie in a tender embrace. "What is going on?" Draco asked in a tone that was far more confused and accusatory than he'd intended. "Merlin's Ash, can't you just leave us be for a minute?" Weasley asked angrily, turning away from the two of them abruptly to shield himself from their sight. But Hermione got his attention, plucking at his sleeve with one hand as she pointed out the front window with her other. "Look!" she said. There, ahead in the distance, two identical houses stood facing each other, their simple, matching front gardens neatly divided by the train tracks. The train chugged to a stop, its belch of smoke announcing their arrival. "Welcome to the meeting place," Rosie said unnecessarily, as the four of them were joined by Pansy and Luna. Stepping off of the train onto the hard, dusty ground below, they were all struck by the stark differences between where they'd come from and this place. The good place had been lush and green, every surface pristine. The pavements had been smooth and unblemished, the grass verdant and thick. In contrast, the medium place only boasted occasional dandelion weeds and tufts of creeping thistle. The front garden of the home featured one oak tree that looked stunted. The garden was ringed by an unpainted, simple fence of wooden stakes. The house was a dull beige with brown trim and a brown front door. On the front porch sat one lonely chair. Curious, Draco walked to the front of the locomotive, peering around to look at the other house. It was identical to the one opposite it. "Which one should we go to, do you think?" he asked Hermione quietly. She shook her head, as thoroughly confused as he was. "I suppose this one," she said, gesturing to the first house. The six of them, plus Jim, stepped through the simple gate and approached the front door. "Do we just go in? Shall we knock?" The front door opened, and a drawling, languid voice spoke out. "Generally speaking, Mr. Weasley, it is best practice to avoid walking into someone's home, unannounced and uninvited." Four of the faces gathered there stared back in complete shock at the man standing just inside the door. "Well," said Severus Snape, "I opened the door. That is the closest thing to an invitation that I'm willing to offer. Are you coming in, or not?"
Thank you for listening to Everything is Fine by Great78. If you enjoyed this story and would like to read more like it, please find me on Archive of Our Own or follow my Spotify channel, Silver and Copper.